Hello, I am Shannon and welcome to today's video. So if you watched my last week's video, I kind of vlogged on my journey to Wheel of Fortune. So today I'm back with some Q&A. So a couple people asked me some questions as far as applying and how to get on the show, as well as I have some things that I want to share, maybe some things that I would do differently, kind of some questions that I had that I really had nowhere to turn to kind of answer. So that's what I'm going to go over today. Okay, so first up was, how do you apply? Well, I actually applied in 2019. There was the Wheelmobile had come to my local town, and I was going to go, but then just couldn't get a sitter and decided not to go. So I just applied online, but then they had a callback a couple days later, and I got invited to the callback. And I went to the live audition. Now, at the live audition, they had you fill out, some questionnaires, as well as they had you play the game with a bunch of other people. There was a couple rounds, and then we got down to 40 people, and then they said they would let us know within 2 weeks, which they did. And I had gotten selected for a show. Long story short, I actually had to turn that one down because it was my son's birthday. I got assigned to another show in March, and then that was March 2020. We all know what happened then. So I went to a live audition. However, now they are doing online auditions and Zoom auditions. Most of the people that were there the day that they shot 6 episodes, so there was 17 other contestants, they all did a Zoom audition, even the 2 people that I did my show with. So you just basically apply online. You may not hear anything for several months. They said they didn't hear anything for several months, and then all of a sudden they call back. What they told me was they auditioned with 3 people, and basically they played the game. So my advice for anybody, I don't know how they pick me, how they pick contestants. But I would say, knowing from what I saw of the people that were picked, is there was obviously a diverse group of people, but nobody was shy. Nobody was like timid. You have to really pronunciate the letters. So they really want to focus on pronunciation. E, D, B, very, very important. They stress that so much. So if you get called for an audition, make sure you do that in the audition, because I think that is going to help you possibly get selected. So because if you have someone that's without good pronunciation, that could lead to problems if they get on the show. You don't know what letter they called. It could be a big mess. So I think pronunciation is key. Also a good story. So I don't want to say lie, but something also local. One of the things I think that helped me get picked was I have some local ties to my community. I was a former Miami Dolphins cheerleader. I'm a former Miss Florida USA. And the 2 shows, the show that I got picked for December 2019 and the show I ended up being on, were both for South Florida. They wanted me for the South Florida show because they showcased my background. The other gentleman was a fire department. He was a firefighter for Miami-Dade. The other lady, the girl that won, she was a ice skater and an ice skating coach at a local Miami ice skating rink. So we all had like something where we could talk about that tied into the local community. So that helps, especially if you are looking for a local show. Obviously, they do a lot of Disney shows. That was my dream, was to get on a Disney show. But again, beggars can't be choosers. I was going to get on whatever show I was selected for. Know what kind of shows they pick. They usually have like a cruise show. So know what kind of weeks they have, something that can tie into whatever, so keep that in mind. But I would say, as far as when you audition, make sure you're talkative, make sure you're energetic, and make sure you're pronouncing your letters clearly. Okay, so what do you do when you get on the show? Well, first of all, you don't get much notice. I got 2 weeks each time. Actually, I think the last time I only had maybe 12 days, but you only get, about 2 weeks to get notice. And you have to make the decision quickly. They will say, you need to make the decision by 5 o'clock tomorrow. We need to know, because if you can't go, they need to select other people that can be on the show. So it's quick. So you have to be able to, jump at a moment's notice and go to the show. So if you don't have that flexibility with your job or with your, personal life, then I would say don't apply, because you're just going to get disappointed if you are selected and you aren't able to go. So just know you do not get a lot of notice. It's about 2 weeks. I didn't know of anybody that got more than 2 weeks. Also, they do not pay your travel. That was a big question. Everybody's like, oh, they put you up for 3 days. And no, they did not put me up for anything. You have to pay for your own travel, your own hotel, your airfare, rental car, whatever you do traveling out there, you pay for. However, they guarantee every single person will win $1,000. So, mostly your travel should be around $1,000. Honestly, I came from South Florida and I stayed in the hotel for 2 days. So my travel with a rental car was about $750. So, obviously I'm going to win $6,000, wipe out $1,000 for my travel. I kind of came out with $5,000 and then you take out taxes. But, keep that in mind that you have to pay for your own travel. You got to figure it out. But you are guaranteed at least winning $1,000. So I kind of just touched on this a second ago, and about taxes. You got to pay taxes. So you do have to pay taxes on your winnings. And my understanding is you also have to pay California state tax. So I live in Florida. There's no state tax. However, since I won the money in California, I will be required to pay California state tax on those winnings. You also have to pay taxes on any prizes you win. Now, everything I won was just cash, so I won't have to pay taxes on a trip or a car. But if you do win a trip or a car, you do have to pay taxes on that. So keep that in mind. When we were filling out the forms and we had to sign out all of our information, you have 45 days to decline any prizes that you win. And I said, do people really decline prizes? And the person said, yes, we do. Not the money, but people do decline, trips. And she's even had somebody decline a car because they didn't want to pay the taxes on it, especially travel, especially trips, because, car, you probably need a car, but a trips, that's something that's extra. So that's a lot of money that you would have to pay. And those trips are quite expensive. So paying taxes on a $10,000 trip is going to be a lot of money. So she did say that a lot of people do decline those trips. So you do have 45 days after the show to decline any prizes that you win, but you do have to pay taxes on them. Now, when do you get paid? Well, easy. I haven't even gotten paid yet. So my understanding is they have until 4 months after the date of your show airing. So my show aired October 21st, so they have until February 21st, 2022 to give me my winnings. And my understanding is they pretty much wait to the last minute. So there was actually a show that shot the week that we shot. There was one show that shot for January. So we shot in September 2nd. Their show's not airing until January, which means they're not getting their winnings until May. So you can wait, have to wait quite a bit. For me, I'm actually kind of glad because it's going to go into the next calendar year. So we'll be able to plan on having to pay those taxes throughout 2022. I'll probably just take some money out of my payroll so that we won't have to, be hit with those taxes at the end of the year. But just keep in mind, you don't get the winnings right away, depending on how soon you shoot before your episode airs. It's 4 months after your episode airs. Okay, so the next question I had was, do you have to stay in a specific hotel? And this is something I kind of wish I had done differently. So they suggested a hotel, which was the 4 Points, which you probably saw. It was a very nice hotel. However, I have a lot of Hilton points. However, they kept, they suggested the 4 Points. It was a nice hotel, safe area. But I kind of wish I had just used, points at, I get perks at Hilton because I'm a gold member. So I kind of wish I had stayed at a Hilton. There was a Hilton very close by, but I wasn't sure if I could. And I didn't really want to ask questions. So I just went ahead with the 4 Points. I stayed there. I paid cash. So that's it. But do you have to stay there? No. And actually several other contestants did stay at other hotels. So you don't have to stay at the 4 Points. The 4 Points does have a rate for Sony. I know when I was going to shoot in 2020, there was a shuttle bus that picked everybody up at a certain time. However, that is not happening at this point, probably because of what's going on. So that shuttle bus is no longer happening. So I would say if you're shooting where there's not going to be a shuttle bus and you have, perks at Hilton or Sheraton or, well, 4 Points is a Sheraton, but, any other hotel, then maybe you could find another one. But just know that the 4 Points is a very nice hotel, great, nice, safe area, right next to a mall. So that was convenient too. But if you want to stay at a different hotel, you absolutely could. A lot of people asked me about getting tested for COVID. So one thing I had to do is I had to get tested within 2 days of me leaving. So I was leaving on a Tuesday, and so I took a test on Sunday, and it had to be a PCR. It couldn't be an antigen test. It had to be a PCR test. Once I got my results, I had to send it to the producer, and then she gave me the okay to fly in. So you had to get the okay that yes, you can fly in. And then the day before the shooting, so I flew in on the 31st. On the 1st, I went and took my COVID test at Sony Studios, which you can see in the video. Then you get the results, and then you're cleared to be on the show. So you actually have to get tested twice, and you have to get tested the day before. That's the reason why I had to fly in 2 days before, because there was no flight that could get me in there. The testing, I think, closed at 1 p.m. the day before. So there was no way. There was one flight that got in like at 11:30, and it was just going to be too risky to be able to make the test, and I didn't want to risk it, especially with the airlines right now. So I flew in the day before, which I highly recommend. So just know that testing, and I don't know how long that's going to be around, but I would expect that's going to be around for a while. As well as the N95 mask. We had to wear N95 masks at all times. You could not sneeze. You could not take a sip of water. You could not scratch your nose inside without your mask. If you needed to scratch your nose, you had to go outside to pull down your mask. Or you needed to take a sip of water, you had to go outside to be able to pull down your mask. They were very, very strict. My understanding is that there were some people that were there, had flown in, and weren't following the rules. Somebody walked by, somebody in power saw somebody pull down their mask, and they were kicked out. And they don't care. You're kicked out, you're out. So just know that if that's something that you don't think you could abide by, then, maybe wait. But honestly, it really wasn't that bad. I really never worn an N95 mask. I got used to it. It was annoying, but you get used to it. And the only time I was really able to take off my N95 mask indoors was when we were shooting, and when I was getting my makeup touched up right before we went out. That was it. So I had that thing on all day long. Now, if you watched my vlog, you saw that I flew out that same night that we shot. And I don't recommend that. I really don't recommend that. It's a long, long day. I did that for several reasons. My husband works midnights, so it was, another night of having to find someone to watch my son, and then, wanting to be home, and then not wanting to spend another night on a hotel. So if I had done it differently, I would have stayed the extra night for several reasons. One, it is a very long day. I had woken up at 4:30 in the morning to get dressed. I was there at 6:45, and we didn't finish till 6. Now, I would have finished around 4:30 because that was when around 4:15 my episode finished. However, I wanted to watch the other 2 episodes shoot and cheer on those contestants, and I also had nowhere to go. I had no hotel to go to. I was going to go to the airport, but there were no flights that I could catch earlier. My flight was at 11:25, I think it was, so I really had nothing else to do. So I stayed, and I stayed till 6, and then I went and got something to eat, returned my rental car, took my time, and went back to the airport, and then splurged on an Admiral Pass at American Airlines. However, if I had to do it differently, I would absolutely get an extra night and stay the extra night and fly out the next day. It's just exhausting. Like, even if you're the last episode and you shoot at 6, it's just tiring. I was on fumes. I came home, how I drove, I landed at 7, and I drove home and I literally went into bed and I slept till 5 o'clock that day. It was 5 o'clock that night. I was just completely, and I was just tired. It was Labor Day weekend. I was tired the whole weekend. Like, it was really taxing on my body. So if I had to do it again, I would stay that night. I also recommend, going to see LA, go to Disneyland. That was our original plan, was like, well, if I ever get picked for the show, we'll go as a family and we'll go to Disneyland. But then, we had just gone to Disneyland in July. So we really couldn't do that right now. So we had just gone to Disneyland. My son was now in school and it was Labor Day weekend. So my husband would not have been able to get off. But the girl that was on my show, Amanda, her and her husband went to Vegas right after the show. A couple other people, I did meet. They kind of made a weekend of it to stay in LA and kind of sightsee. So that's really what I would recommend. Make a trip of it if you can afford it. And also, like I said, know that you don't have to stay at the hotel specifically. So if you want to stay at other hotel, however, I wouldn't stay too far from Culver City. Culver City was a nice area, but I wouldn't stay too far. It was about a 10-minute drive from the hotel to the studio. So wherever you stay, make sure it's close enough to the studio because you don't want anything to delay you in the morning. There was no traffic, but it's LA and there's pretty much traffic everywhere. Okay, the last thing I'm going to add is about renting a car. I decided to rent a car because I didn't want to have to Uber to and from the studio when to take the test, and then to and from the studio the next day, and then to and from the airport. I figured with all the money going back and forth, I might as well just rent a car. It was probably the best decision I made for several reasons. One, I was able to go to and from the test, no problem. I was able to go and grab some lunch and, kind of a little bit of sightsee, and then just had my freedom. I love having a car and just having my freedom. The next thing was, if you saw in the video of my vlog, you'll see that there was 2 contestants at the gate. And I knew there was, two people, a gentleman and a lady, nicely dressed, holding some clothes, holding some bags. And I was like, these people have to be going to the Wheel of Fortune. Like, who's standing out on the side of the street at 6:30 in the morning? Sure enough, they were. They had been out there for 20 minutes waiting for an Uber. And the Uber that was assigned to them wasn't coming for another 20 minutes, which was going to make them late. So I just was like, hop on in, we're going to the same place. So like, I ended up taking them to the studio, but they couldn't find an Uber. They were trying, and the girl that actually won my show ended up being late. I don't think she got there till about 7:20 because of the same thing. She had gotten an Uber and she couldn't find an Uber at that time. So thinking that you're just going to find an Uber and go there, it wasn't that easy. She was able to still be on the show. Lucky for her, because she did really well. But I wouldn't want to take that risk. And like I said, those other 2 contestants, they had been out there for 20 minutes. So they would have been out there for 45 minutes before their Uber would have even gotten there. So I personally think renting a car, if you can, is definitely ideal. So I think that's it. If you have any questions from auditioning or applying, or maybe you've gotten selected for the show and you have some questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. Or, obviously, if you've gotten selected and you have some questions, DM me on Instagram. I will try and answer as much as I can, because obviously you need to keep it quiet, so you can't put it in comments that you've gotten selected. But I'm happy to answer questions. It really was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I'm so grateful that I was selected. The cast and crew of the show are amazing. Like, the crew is just incredible. I said it in the video, they want you to win, they want you to do well, and everybody, they've been there for 20 something years. And Vanna and Pat's, if you get on stage, Pat's gonna make you feel very, very comfortable. Vanna White, she's amazing, she's stunning, and it was fun to be on the set as well. I will tell you, that first game, I was shaking. My legs were shaking uncontrollably. You can't really tell on TV, but I was so nervous. Unfortunately for me, I kind of got calm at the end. It goes by so fast. So I really got calm, when it was toward the end, and I pretty much had already lost at that point, but it was still an amazing experience. So I encourage you. A lot of people said, oh, I've always dreamed about being on that show, but I've never applied. Apply. I'm going to post a link below on how to apply. You just never know. So definitely take a shot and, maybe you'll get picked. So if you like this video, click like, click and subscribe, and that way you get a notification every time I post a new video. Bye everyone.